Well, good morning and welcome. Thank y'all so much. For those of you who are able to join us this morning, I'd like to welcome you to a brief but relevant conversation. As always, please, as you hop on, go ahead and send us some love our way, some hearts our way, and go ahead and share to other friends of yours, either through your personal page or in Messenger, or if you're able to share to a group, particularly a group of women, please do so. But thank you so much for coming on with us this morning. We are glad to have the opportunity to have another conversation. So today is Halloween, and I don't know what your beliefs are, but if you are participating in any activities today, please be smart and be safe. With that being said, it is apparent that October is no longer just about Halloween. I had mentioned earlier in this month that there are about 470 holidays or places of recognition in the month of October globally. And I think for most, like our school systems and our federal and our government organizations, they recognize the dates that are out there. But particularly, they recognize dates like Columbus Day. But because of disagreement about, what Columbus actually discovered or anything, some are not necessarily calling it Columbus Day anymore. They're doing fall pause and different things like that. But what I learned this month was that in addition to Columbus Day being Columbus Day, it is also National Indigenous People Day. So I just learned that this year, which means that that is a day that's supposed to be set aside for the Native Americans. So I learned that this year, 2020 has given us quite a bit of time to learn stuff we didn't know before. And so that was one of the things that I learned, but I found it very interesting. And then a week or so ago, I and three other beautiful ladies had a conversation surrounding actually National Pregnancy and Infancy Loss Awareness Recognition Day, which is October the 15th, which is kind of funny to me because I think that is specifically the same day set aside specifically for domestic violence. So there, of course, with 470, some of the dates are going to have to share dates. But then some that we're less aware of or less awareness driven. And I want to see if anybody is familiar with any of these. National Get Funky Day. So I don't know if that's about like James Brown, get down, or whether that's like, hey, it's okay, maybe not to wear deodorant. I don't know. But then there was National Coaches Day, and I recognize that because both my dad and my brother are coaches. Then there's a National Gumbo Day, which was on a Monday when I was at home in Louisiana, which was good. And my friend Tresca came through and made sure I had some gumbo on National Gumbo Day. Then there was Braless Day. Did y'all know that was a thing? Braless Day. Now, for me, most of 2020 has been that, but I was going to specifically recognize it, and then I end up missing it. I had something going on, and I just wasn't able to be free like I had planned to be on Braless Day. And so then there's Leggings and Chocolate Cupcakes Day, which are like together. So I guess you're supposed to be in leggings eating a chocolate cupcake. I don't know who came up with that one. There's Clergy Appreciation Day. World Mental Health Day. And I think, 2020, this would have been a date that we really needed to focus on because the world is being affected mentally by everything that's going on. So World Mental Health Day definitely was one that we all globally should have been recognizing. There was National Curves Day. I don't know about y'all, but hey, I fit into that category of national curves, natural curves. Then there was Bosses Day, LGBTQ Awareness Day. Make a Difference Day was actually last Saturday. And I had the opportunity to be with some people who were definitely making a difference. There was National Oatmeal Day. I think that was Monday. And then today is National Joke Day. So when I look at just kind of the range of all these different holidays, I was just like, I wonder because the seasons were changing and people just decide we just need to be able to celebrate everything when the fall comes because we're going to just be in a whole different mood and we just need to be able to get our energy up. Because just some of that stuff is just like, really, do we need a holiday for that? But I won't talk about it. But today, though, I'm going to be talking with two very strong and active women about domestic violence and breast cancer awareness. Both of these women are very active about bringing awareness to these topics and bring with them testimonies of their experiences. For those of you who may be new to this platform, I'm the host, Dawn Charleston-Green, the creator of Dawn of a New Day 365, and I'm excited to be having our fifth conversation. Those of you who have joined or watched previously recall that we've had conversation between women, both Black and white, about the state of our nation regarding the pandemic of the coronavirus and racism. We talked about men's mental health and its effect on the family. We talked about going back to school in a pandemic. And as I mentioned about a week ago, we discussed infant and pregnancy loss. And so if you or someone you know may be interested in watching those conversations, you can find them on YouTube at the Dawn of a New Day 365 YouTube channel, simply entitled The Conversation. But today's conversation, we're just going to go ahead and jump right in. Like I said, I have two lovely women to add to the conversation and share their experiences and their causes to hopefully encourage and enlighten someone who sees this. But before I introduce this morning's guest, let me first ask that everyone send hearts our way, as well as share today's live with someone. Please invite someone else to the conversation. Also, let me put out some ground rules. Always remember that our conversations are intended to promote as well as provoke genuine and authentic dialogue around real issues. My hope is that I can provide a safe space to have needed conversations, as well as to hopefully provide hope and resources to those who may need it. With that being said, remember to be kind and thoughtful in your comments. As we have our conversation today, we will not comment negatively on anyone's opinion or experience. These are their experiences and their interpretations of them on very sensitive topics. Please, by all means, chat with us and add conversation to our feed. If you have specific questions, please type a capital Q before your questions so that it can be quickly identified, and we will do our best to try to address your questions, if not now, in the feed after we conclude, or to you personally. Also, because of the topics we're talking about today, I would like anyone to feel free to drop a pink or purple heart if you have shared these experiences, as well as to send us names of those survivors in your family or those who lost their battle, so that we can remember them. Okay, so remember to be thoughtful and kind in your comments. Remember to keep it a positive conversation. Add to the chat. Please put a capital Q in the comments if you have a particular question so that we can identify it. And because today's topic is on breast cancer awareness and domestic violence awareness, if you've had any of those experiences, drop us a pink or a purple heart. Pink for breast cancer awareness, purple for domestic violence awareness, or the names of survivors in your family or those who may have lost their battle so that we can remember them. Again, I thank you for joining us for the conversation. So let's please welcome this morning's guests, Miss Marilyn Norris and Miss Kathy Suber. Miss Marilyn Maxine Norris is the Casualty Assistance Chief at Fort Gordon, Georgia. She is a 3-time breast cancer survivor. The topic is near and dear to her heart. Marilyn says surviving breast cancer 3 times is a blessing for God. The 3rd time really opened my eyes as it showed me that my life will never be the same again. Marilyn is single with 2 adult children, Noah and Raven. She has 3 beautiful granddaughters, London, Chloe, and Alana. Marilyn is also a member of Share Best's Sisters Only Club, a civic organization in the greater Central Savannah River area, and she's the 2nd vice president, I think. Am I saying that right?
First vice president.
First vice president, yes. And she is also a member and the national membership coordinator for Kappa Epsilon Psi Military Sorority. And she is the CEO and founder of Girl Warriors, Fighting the Battle. Please welcome Miss Marilyn Norris. Thank you for being with us, Marilyn. And then we have Miss Kathy Suber. Currently, Kathy works for a nonprofit child advocacy organization in Covington, Georgia. However, she has founded and serves as the executive director of A Place to Prosper Incorporated. Kathy is a 28-year survivor of domestic violence. Kathy says the topic of domestic violence means life or death to her. She's been married now for almost 9 years. She has 4 children, is a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, as well as a member of Leadership Walton Class of 2021. So thank you, Kathy, for being with us this morning as well. Glad to have you. And so, Kathy, I'm actually going to go ahead and start with you this morning. So thank you for being a part of the conversation. So the first thing I wanted to just kind of find out about, you said in your bio that you are a 28-year survivor of domestic violence. So in what way will you explain that? Was it 28 years ago, or did you survive? Did you go through it for 28 years? And what part of your personal experience would you like to share?
Sure, absolutely. Good morning, good morning, good morning to
Good
everyone.
morning.
And first of all, Dawn, let me thank you for this opportunity to share with your audience the trauma related to and the importance of that taboo subject that nobody likes to talk about is domestic violence. Okay. And I'm
Mhm.
also honored certainly to be able to share this platform with Marilyn. It means so much to be here with you, Marilyn. So Dawn, your question was asking me what brings me close to this and how long. I actually, I'm a walking, living, breathing example of a woman who's experienced domestic violence. So I didn't experience it for 28 years. I was only married for a really short time, but I it's been 28 years since my experience.
Mhm.
Okay. But just to share with you, for 28 years, and until after I got out of that situation and met my god-given husband, I didn't have a voice during that time. I lived in shame for 20 plus years. I lived in shame. um, Experiencing domestic violence, it takes a lot away from you. It diminishes your self-worth. It crumbles your soul. It physically leaves you lifeless, and it just plumb mentally, physically, and emotionally chews you up and spits you out, Dawn. It
Mhm.
seriously does. It spits you out. And there are women who are right now who are afraid to speak up. They're actually afraid to speak up. And there are women who are afraid to leave their situations because of fear of not having any place to go. And they're embarrassed to acknowledge to folks that their marriage or relationship has failed.
Mhm.
And I get that because I live that. And viewers and listeners, if you're experiencing being choked, slapped, raped by your husband, and yes, you can be raped by your spouse if you say no, or let's say you and your children are being held hostage and you're walking around on eggshells in your home, I understand that because I live that. Now, just because I can now say that I was beaten, bruised, and bent, but not completely broken, does not mean that it was always easy for me to say, Dawn. It
Mhm.
doesn't mean it was always easy for me to say. I lived for years in shame and in guilt, and let's not forget the anger.
Mhm.
Okay. So everything that you who may be experiencing domestic violence is feeling is valid. Your feelings really are valid. But what's important is for you to get out of the domestic violence situation, live for yourself and for your children. So, Dawn, do you mind if I know you asked me one question, but this topic is so, so, so sensitive and so important to me. And
Absolutely.
because I live in transparency about where I've been and where I'm going, do you mind if I share a small transparent story with your
Absolutely.
viewers?
Go ahead.
Do you
No.
mind? Do you
Mm-mm.
mind? You asked me one question and I'm just
No,
taking
but
a
I said
mile
I
because
said share your experience, whatever you want to share from your experience. So please
I
take this time.
yes, because domestic violence is so taboo, as I mentioned.
Hmm.
But what I want to share is, and this is for everybody, this is for men and women. Domestic violence is no joke. It hurts mentally and it hurts physically. And the person who is being abused, they're gonna live with this trauma for the rest of their lives. They just are. And my transparency is, Dawn, that at the age of 22, I was married and I was a mom, and domestic violence had taken a total toll over my life. It was my life. It was my life's hidden secret, I guess you can say. Meaning, of course, nobody outside of my home knew what I was experiencing. So one day, when I was done with the abuse and the beatings and the lies, I was sitting in my apartment bathroom behind the closed door, the closed locked door, and I had two things, Dawn. Two things. One was a Smith and Wesson that my father had given me for protection in case someone broke into my home, and the other was a bag of hoarded pills that I'd been hoarding over time. So in the midst of my tears and confusion, Don, I sat there and contemplated for a long time which one to use. That was my
Mhm.
life at 22. And that's the short version of what living in domestic violence can do to a person. And I wanted to die, and it wasn't even at the hands of my abuser. It almost happened by my own hand because
Mhm.
I just didn't feel like I could live another day with my abuser. And at that moment, when I sat in that bathroom ready to either put a bullet in my head or swallow pills to overdose, the love for my son is what allowed me not to do either, you know? And I didn't know it then, but that was a but God moment in my life. And I chose to live and to leave that person.
Mhm.
And there are some ladies out there who will never leave their abusers because they'll never realize their self-worth. And then there are some ladies who will never live to realize her self-worth.
Whew. Wow. Um,
That's how I feel about domestic violence. So,
right, right.
yes,
So you had shared that the thing that stopped you on that day was the fact of your son.
yes.
Um, how old is your son now?
He's 32.
Have you had this conversation with him?
Yes, I have. We've
Okay.
had that conversation.
And I ask because I have friends who've experienced domestic violence, and um, fortunately they are not in those situations anymore. But a lot of
Good.
them being able not to have the conversation or not be as transparent about some of the things is because their story is also their child's story based on the fact that
Yes.
that's the father. And so was that ever difficult for you to be able to be as transparent as you're being today, considering your son?
Don, he was small then,
Mhm.
when that situation ended. He was 4. Now, he does not recall those incidents that took place during that time. But when he was young, I did not have those discussions with him. And
Mhm.
I also did not um, say negative things about his father when he was younger. When he was younger. Now we have very adult conversations,
Right.
um, very adult. But when he was younger, it was important to me with the journey with what I was experiencing. Um, Back then, I didn't realize he was also absorbing maybe some of that because when you're in the midst of domestic violence, sometimes you don't think about your children, or you think your children maybe don't hear what's happening. Um, he does not recall, in which thank God he does not, but he was much older when we had those conversations about what I experienced during that time.
Okay, that's that. Well, thank you for sharing. That's very transparent, of course.
Mhm.
And so so sorry that you had or that you experienced that. But I know that, like you said, it's so passionate to you because you are a survivor
Mhm.
of it. And that's something about a survivor. I wanted to just read something really quick that I had read about domestic violence. It says each year more than 10 million people are physically abused by their intimate partner. Women are more at risk than men. In fact, approximately 25% of all women in the United States are physically abused, sexually abused, and are stalked by their intimate partners. Furthermore, it's estimated that 11% of men will experience one or more of the aforementioned abusive actions by their partners. Domestic violence happens in every community, race, each
Yes.
socioeconomic group, and religion. It is a national and global crisis that disproportionately affects women.
Yes.
And so, Kathy, based on that information, the statistics, and referring to domestic violence as a global crisis, is this part of the reason that you started your organization, because you saw it as a crisis where you were, or did you start your organization strictly based on your own experience?
Actually, Dawn, I started my organization based on my own personal experience. But keep in mind that after my experience, it took 20 plus years for me to even mentally um, be able to come outside of myself to share with anyone
Mm-hmm.
that I had been in an abusive situation. I shared it with no one, but I did go through my life with all of the after effects of that. You know, my behavior, my just how I didn't love myself for many, many years. I did not love myself. I didn't know how to love myself. And I was looking for love in other places. And and then just it just came to me that I was living my life based on what I had experienced at that young age. And then when I met my husband and we began to talk, and he, you know, he has really been my backbone to encourage me to say, share your story, walk in your transparency, because there's someone who is either in that place of being abused and they don't know how to get out, or they've been through it and they just need to hear that someone else has survived it also.
Right.
So I really started my organization based on my experience and knowing that there are others out there who have no place to go and they're
Okay.
stuck where they are.
Did you know that it was considered a global crisis?
Um, I've learned that over the years. I've
Mm-hmm.
learned that just with age and maturity and whatnot. But back then, I had no idea. In fact, I don't even think back then at 22, Dawn, that I even knew that a domestic violence shelter even existed. Like I didn't look for those outside resources
Mm-hmm.
outside of home.
Okay. Okay. So some other things that I read about, it says, according to the National Coalition Against domestic violence can be defined as the willful intimidation, physical assault, battery, sexual assault, or abusive behavior as a part of a systemic pattern of power and control perpetrated by one intimate partner against the other. It says the definition encompasses things like emotional abuse, threatening language, all forms of unwanted physical or sexual violence. Domestic violence is most often perpetuated on women that are between ages 18 and 24. The effects
Yes.
on victims can include an increased risk of contracting an STD, evaluated rates of depression and anxiety, injury, financial strain, and in the worst cases, death. So, Kathy, one of the questions that arise from people who have had this experience, or I take that back. One of the questions that arise from people who have not had the experience of dealing in a domestic violent relationship is, why do women stay? So, from your perspective, what would you say is would be a reason? You know, because there are some people who, you know, after a while they get frustrated with their family member, their friend, because, you know, she say she's stupid. You know, there's just so many things that we say. What would be a reason that you would say that a woman would stay?
You know, Dawn, that's such a big question that I think every woman who's in a domestic violence situation and someone else knows. I think that's probably the biggest question that they ask is, girl, why are you staying with him? Girl, he, you know, just like you just said.
Right.
I I think, and it's of course just my opinion, and then having been there, I think fear is the biggest reason um, why women stay. It's fear because you're afraid that if you leave, there's that fear of he'll find me, and there's that fear of what will he do when he finds me.
Mm-hmm.
There's that fear of not knowing where to go, or but also too there's that shame. You know,
Mm-hmm.
why do women stay? There's the shame because they don't want to leave, and then they have to answer questions to people about, girl, what happened? What
Right.
happened? Why you not with your husband? Why? There's a lot of things. There's that fear, that shame, that, where am I gonna go? And then that fear of what will he do to me?
Okay. So additionally, it says, the types of domestic violence, physical abuse. It
Yes.
says it can include actions of pushing, restraining, slapping, punching, kicking, and you mentioned these.
Yes.
Emotional abuse that begins verbally. It says abusers use it as a tool to belittle or humiliate their victims. The economic abuse, and I don't even know if I ever kind of realized that one as much, but it
Yes.
says this can happen when a partner doesn't allow their spouse to have control over their own finances. In many cases, abusers won't allow their partners to work or to achieve any form of independent success. Now, I think I have seen that before. Then
Mhm.
psychological abuse, anything said or done to strike fear in another person. And you just kind of, mentioned that just now. But Kathy, do you think that there could be a woman or women who is not receiving the physical abuse portion of it, so often associated with domestic violence, that she doesn't really realize that she's being abused? Or do you think you can't have one without having the other?
Oh no, absolutely. Don, there, just as you mentioned several, I guess you could say, types of abuse. There is the financial abuse, the physical abuse, the emotional abuse, the mental abuse, and the
Mhm.
financial abuse. And I really do think that, well, let me kind of answer it this way. You do not have to experience all of them, all of the forms of abuse. You can experience one, you can experience three, you could be experiencing all of them. But to answer your question, yes, I think a woman could be, um, let's say, for example, let's use financial. Everything else could probably be fine, but let's say that she works and she has to bring her check home to her spouse or her boyfriend or whomever, and he dictates everything that happens with the money. And let's say she is allowed to have gas money to get to work. Or let's say he gives her a set amount of money for her to go to the grocery store, and she has to bring back a receipt that shows X number of dollars, where he's monitoring how much money she has spent. That might be a norm for someone,
Mhm.
but it can be looked at as abuse as well. He's dictating where all the money goes. He's dictating what she can spend. And I'm not saying, because I'm not saying that a woman should be able to run amok like most of us do with our credit cards, but because my husband get on me all the time, like, mm-hmm. But yes, financial. I think that abuse can occur and a woman not realize it because it's their norm, and it doesn't have to include that he's physically hitting her or anything
Mhm.
like that.
Mhm.
Um, or even with, let's say, the verbal abuse aspect of it. Donna, here's another transparent, I'm just so transparent about
Mhm.
domestic violence, but here's another transparent moment is a woman could be simply experiencing verbal abuse where she's being told things like, nobody's going, these were things that I was told, was that nobody's going to want you with a child, or nobody's going to want you, and what are you
Mhm.
going to do without me? Those are things that didn't use vulgar language, but because they were said along with the behaviors that were occurring.
Mhm.
Had the behaviors not been occurring, being told those things still would take away from any woman's self-esteem. It would take away from it would break any woman down that's hearing someone say, you can't make it without me, who do you think you are? Those types of things. So to
Mhm.
answer your question, yes, a woman could being abused and not even realize that that's what's happening to her.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Kathy, now will you tell us a little bit more about your organization, and then what resources does it offer for women living in this experience?
Absolutely. Don, I decided to follow my vision, to open a domestic violence shelter in my community. And
Mhm.
when I say I'm in the beginning stages, I'm at the very beginning of everything. So I actually don't have a building right
Mm-hmm.
now, but that's what I'm working on trying to get. So I'm trying to move forward with each step, and just trying to get there. So I don't have a building right now, but my organization is called Place to Prosper Incorporated. It is a place of peace and new beginnings where healing the hurt of heartbreak begins. I had to have all of that, but it's called Place to Prosper. It's called Place to Prosper. We are a 501c3 organization, though. So I do have that part of the organization set up. So I'm really excited about that. And so, of course, we're accepting tax deductible donations through Text by Donate, and I can share that later on if you like. But some of the resources that I will have, because you have to speak these things into
Come
existence,
on.
um, some of the services that I will have will be, of course, it's going to be a safe and confidential shelter. And honestly, I don't like using the word shelter. I want to believe it's a home, so it's going to be a safe, confidential home. Um, I'm going to be linked with a lot of the community services that are out in the community. And we're going to have children's services. We're going to have emotional support, which is going to be, that's going to be big, because emotionally experiencing domestic violence is traumatic anyway.
Right.
So we're going to have some services set up for counseling and for group sessions, things of that sort, because um, I believe that when women are experiencing, in the midst of experiencing domestic violence, they don't realize that other people are experiencing domestic violence as well.
Right.
So emotional support, we're going to have some legal and social service advocacy going on in there. Um, One of the big things is we're going to have household assistance. So, we want to be able to help women not return to a place where they're being abused. My desire is that we're able to help them find housing, and then we're going to follow up with them for a time after that to make sure that they're still safe and they're still in a good place. So those will be some of the services that I'm speaking into existence when I get a building.
Okay. Okay.
When I get a building.
Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, and with what you already do, and I know that you already do it in just in advocacy for children and families, I know I don't have any doubt that you're going to do great things, in that population of women and families who are experiencing domestic violence. And I know, here locally where I am here in Augusta, Georgia, we have a very successful domestic violence. And, it's unfortunate it has to be successful, but we have a domestic violence shelter here in Augusta called Safe Homes. And so they do a lot of things to bring awareness to our community. They're very highly supported and things like that. And definitely a great resource here for our women who are local to our area. So it's, unfortunately, like I said, I hate to have to say that it's a successful organization, but it's well run and organized. And so it definitely offers what's needed to those women and families that are here. So I'm wishing you nothing but success with being able to truly reach that population. Because I know that that's something that's near and dear to you. And I think it's so often it seems like it goes even better when there's somebody who knows the heart of what it is, that it's not just a job, that that it's an experience, and so that you can live that. So thank you so much, and we're gonna come back to you a little later. We're going to go ahead and kind of switch things now. Like I said, we're doing a two-part today where we're talking about domestic violence and breast cancer awareness as well. So Marilyn, I'm going to go to you. So when you were first diagnosed with breast cancer, and you said, as we mentioned in your bio, you are a 3-time breast cancer survivor. So when you were first diagnosed with breast cancer, what was it? What age were you?
I was 35, Dawn, and it was detected by a mammogram.
Okay. Okay. So just kind of tell us about that experience, that first time receiving that diagnosis. I mean, I know, women talk about it. We talked about the importance of the breast examination and things, but unless you've really walked in it. I don't think anybody truly understands what that's like to get that diagnosis. So can you just kind of share?
Yes, it was detected by a mammogram. And again, I was 35 years old. But first, I want to thank you for being on here, and definitely thank Kathy for her story, because that really touches home. Because one of my young cousins in her 20s, she died from domestic violence. So your story really touches home, and I thank you. And it's a pleasure to meet you. And thank you again, Dawn. I've been knowing you for a while, and I love you to death. But I was 35 years old, and my first bout with cancer, it was non-invasive. So I'm thinking like, okay, everything's fine. They got it. Cool. I can move on. And again, it was detected by a mammogram. But I can remember the doctor telling me what happens next is going to be on me. It's going to be my will to live. So from that day forward, I've been living. So the first time with cancer, I'm thinking like, oh, this is nothing. So it really didn't bother me at all, because of the doctors I had. The way they was motivating me was telling me I'm young. So it didn't bother me at all.
So you said your will to live, is that something that's often said?
I don't know. It's something that was said to me, and she said it's how I handle it, how I handle cancer. And I think she was saying that because I was so young. Well, not so young. I was 35. And I was really healthy because I was just getting out the military at the time. So, and then, when she said that, my life was living at that time was for my kids. They was young at that time. So when she said that, I said, she's right. I don't think nobody can raise my kids like I can.
Right.
So, that gave me the strength to say, okay, I'm gonna live from this day forward.
Right. And so then what type of treatment did you have to do with that first one?
With that first one, I had no radiation or no chemo. So I was blessed and fortunate, but I did have my breast removed. So I was great. I didn't experience a whole bunch, but she did, and I take that back. She did do a little radiation. They would give me a Sprite every time I came to the doctor's office, and it seemed like that just was the life of me.
Now, when you said they didn't really do as much, because I think you had said that it was non-invasive.
Yes.
So what does that mean?
So that means it was localized, and when they got the cancer, they was able to get it all when they took the lump out.
Okay. And so did you have a history? Did your family have a history of breast cancer, women with breast cancer?
No, there's no history of breast cancer in my family.
Okay. But do they tell you, so like now, so previously, but now would that have to be a concern for your daughter, for Raven? Does she need to have like regular mammograms, or will her mammogram start earlier?
Well, and believe it or not, we was just talking about that the other day with that genetic test. I don't carry the gene.
Okay.
So, and I don't remember exactly what she stated that the doctor told hers, but it's the BRCA test, I believe, that they're taking. But since I don't carry the gene, and it's not genetic in my family, she will, she did start getting mammograms early, at an early age. So yes, that is a concern for her. And she has a daughter also.
Okay. So you talked about the first time. Tell me about the second and the third.
Well, the second time, I always did with Adele Holyfield, Davita Malone, and other ladies. We did the 3-day, 60-mile breast cancer walk in Atlanta, Georgia. So the second time I was at Eisenhower, and when they called me in, I'm thinking like, oh my God, I know cancer is back, but right now I'm training for that walk, and I don't have time to deal with cancer right now. So it was an intern at first, but when the doctor came in, he said, you already know what it is. I said, yes, sir, but right now I don't have time to deal with it. So tell me what I need to do. And when I come back from the 3-day, 60-mile breast cancer walk, I don't raise all that money. I'm going to walk. When I come back, then we'll deal with it. So I did the walk and I came back. So that's when I had to have the other breast removed, and he did the implants.
Okay. And I remember, I think you had already had the first diagnosis. And then when you and I kind of came close together and we're working together a lot, that's when the second one came. And I remember just being devastated, as a friend, because you were always so active and always so strong and always doing so much, and just kind of pretty much the way you said it to the doctor was basically how you said it to me. You was like, Dawn Charleston-Green, you was like, this is what's happening. I don't have time for it right now. I got to do this. I'm just letting you know. And so you just kind of left me like this, like, I don't know what to say, because you just told me how I'm gonna act until you get back to be able to deal with it. But I do, recall, as a friend, is really nothing you can do in the moment. But I wanted to try to show my support to you just by being there, And so I remember with that second surgery, just coming up there to the hospital, your grandmother and your mother were there at that particular time, and just kind of sitting there. I just wanted you to know that you had somebody there who cared. And like I said, I couldn't do nothing, but I just wanted to be there. And so at that time, I remember the doctors coming out and was saying that you had the destruction or the deconstruction surgery, but you were about to have the reconstruction surgery at that time. And so, but with this third time, one of the things that you've talked about is you chose not to do the reconstructive part of it. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you made that decision not to this time do the reconstruction?
Well, the third time I did because it came back underneath an implant. So it was big as a grapefruit. And this time, it really brought me to my knees because the lump was had attached itself to my ribs. So that was a lot of decisions I had to make. And one of the decisions that the doctors made is just so I would look, and I call it semi-normal, is that he had to take the skin from my back and bring it to the front just to make the skin. So in the third time, I had to get 7 ribs removed. So he had to make ribs to replace those. And to remove the ribs, he had to open up my chest wall. So he had to build me a chest wall, use the mesh, and they called it medical cement. So the front of my left side is just cement with 7 artificial ribs. And they used the skin from my back to cover my chest. And the reason I say I know it brought me to my knees, during the surgery, I didn't know what was going on. But when I read my daughter's part in my book, I'm thinking like, my Lord, all that happened while I was under, I had no idea.
So you were not a part of any of this decision. The doctors had to on the fly, so say, make this decision.
Well, no, right before surgery, this is a decision, we had to make because there was nothing else for him to do. But the part I'm talking about, losing all the blood, taking 12 hours and things that was going on, I did not know that part until I read the story in my daughter's book. Wow. Because if you know me, I don't talk about my bout with cancer. People know my sorority name. They know why they call me that. But I don't talk about it because it doesn't determine who I am. It made me who I am, but it's not determining who I am. And to me, looking at myself every day, I see the scars from cancer. So I say the third time brought me to my knees because even though I walk a lot, it's hard to walk. You don't rest because you can't get comfortable. You can't lay back. And it's sort of like you're carrying that extra weight of cement in your chest. So if I ever become unconscious, they can't bring me back because they can't do chest compressions. It's a lot of things that can't happen now if something else does happen. And I say I wasn't able to get implants the third time. I do have an implant on the right, but on the left, I wasn't able to get an implant because of all the reconstruction they did to put me back together.
Wow. I had no idea. I mean, that's a lot. And it's so amazing how strong women are. It's amazing to me how strong women are. And when you look at somebody, how you really don't know what they've been through.
Yes.
I had done a post, the week or the day of National Infant and Pregnancy Loss Day. And, I put a picture of me smiling on there, but I said, you never know what's really behind a woman's smile or how long it took to get there, so I would have never known. And so, and I'm gonna try not to get emotional when I talk about it, Marilyn. because I didn't know that. But I'm just thinking about, you're the chief of casualty assistance. So you got to deal with death every day. Every day, when soldiers die, whether active duty or retired, you got to deal and you got to give instruction to them. But then to know that you've been dodging that for a long time, that you haven't had to deal with that, God is good. And so
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And the way I deal with it, Dawn, is, and my kids always say, well, it used to be for my kids and now it's for my grandkids. I love my family to death and they know that. But I don't talk about what I went through because I don't want to, it's just not in me to talk about it. I don't talk about it with my kids. I don't talk about it with anyone. If they don't know me, they don't know my battle. They don't know why, God got me here. They just don't know. And to me, I love life and that will never change. And that's why I know I'm at a point in my life. And I didn't mean to put this on you on this platform.
No, you're fine. You are fine. I know. But like I said, when you know a person and you see a person and you just see them in their strength, with their magic, and every day they making things happen and they doing what they got to do for themselves and usually everybody else too. They're truly everything that's behind that stride, everything that's making those things happen. And so when you see it and you recognize it and you hear the story, like, you see the glory, but you don't know the story. And so when you finally know the story behind this, your heart just, it just becomes, emotional. It just overwhelmed when you just kind of think about, man, it take a lot to get out that bed every day. It take a lot just to put that smile on the face and just to, to be nice to other people, because you really don't know what I'm dealing with, and I might go off on a tangent real quick, but so oftentimes we might come into contact with people. There might be somebody, from your job or from somewhere else that may not have had a good day with Marilyn, and could have just completely internalized it as what was going on with them. Oh, she was acting funny with me, or this was going on. But you really don't know what my sister got going on. And today she just ain't got that much time to be nice to everybody because she trying to figure out her own stuff. So anyway, so that's all it is. I'm just like, man, that's all. And then you say, but God, that's all you can say.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Woo. Well, thank you for being so transparent, Marilyn. I truly admire you for your courage and your strength. And I can't even imagine, even sometimes how you keep going. I think I have my things, but you never know what somebody else has. But I just want to say thank you for always just being such a strong force of resilience. Really, that's what it is. For me, and then for so many other women, because there are so many other women who draw off of you and who admire you. So I just want to say, just thank you for sharing that. We just want to be able to have this information to share with others. So those who may be watching later, if you would share this with somebody else, share this with one of your friends or your sisters who you may think may be dealing with domestic violence, or a family member who may be dealing with illness in any way, but particularly with breast cancer. So please share this. Kathy, like to say anything to any women who are experiencing domestic violence?
Life is a light, and you just don't even know what listening to your testimony has done for me, but for so many other women who have been through breast cancer and been survivors. You're amazing. But God is good. We have to say that God is good and He is amazing. He is amazing. Dawn, what I'd like to say to any women who are experiencing domestic violence, and we know that there are some. That's just a given. Domestic violence is never going to go away. It's never going to go away. What I want to say to women who are experiencing domestic violence is that I know that it's scary. I know it's scary, and I know it feels impossible to leave. I know it feels impossible to take that first step. But if you just take that first step, and even if it's just a small first step, and keep moving forward, that you can survive and you can make it. Because I felt the impossible in my journey of dealing with domestic violence. And, just as I'm moving forward with my vision, Dawn, my journey is not about bashing the person that I experienced domestic violence with. I don't go around trying to, like throw his name in the mud, because that's not what it's about. And I want other women to understand that it's not about that other person. It's not about him or not about her or whoever you're in a relationship with. It's about you. It's, if you have children, it's about your children. And it's about living life, because God put us all on this earth to be on this earth, and not for our lives to be taken drastically by someone. So I just want to say, if you're in a domestic violence situation, within yourself if you're experiencing abuse. Nobody has to tell you. And just take that first step to move forward and to get out and to live. If you got to leave, to move out of state, move out of state. Do what you need to do to live this life that God so graciously gave you.
Is there, you want to put out any other plugs concerning Place to Prosper or anything?
I do have a website that of course goes along with opening building and all that kind of stuff. But my website is www.placetoprosper.org. Again, the website is www.placetoprosper.org. I also have a Facebook page. It is Place and the number 2 Prosper. So my Facebook is Place, the number 2 Prosper. And if anyone wants to donate to help me moving forward with my vision, I have where you can text STOP DV to, and I'm going to give the phone number. It is 470-802-8850. And of course, anything that's donated is tax deductible. So I would be sending a letter to you, anyone that wants to give. I would send a letter to you that you'd be able to, of course, file with your taxes. So,
I was going to ask if there's any person who may end up listening to this who would like to reach out to talk to you, maybe. Are you open to that?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. I do have email as well, Dawn. My email is placetoprosper19@yahoo.com.
Okay.
Place to Prosper.
Okay.
That's my email if you want to email me. And of course, here I am, not even knowing by heart what my business phone number is. I got so many phone numbers, I can't even remember what my numbers are.
Well, talk about your podcast real quick. Talk about the podcast.
Yeah. Dawn, I totally forgot about my podcast. Totally forgot about my podcast. Also, I do have a podcast. You can find it through Anchor Podcast. It is called Place to Prosper. That's my new venture. I'm so excited about that podcast, guys, because what I'm doing is I'm talking to people who have experienced domestic violence. So if you are interested in appearing and participating on the podcast, you are kept confidential. I don't share people's real names. I make up, we make up names. Your name might be, Kathy, and on the podcast, you're going to be Mary. So, because I'm very serious about confidentiality, because everybody's not able to be transparent and be able to tell their story yet. They're not ready to tell it to the world. So if you want to appear as a guest on the podcast, send me an email, send me a text, whatever the case may be. I have a couple of podcasts episodes already on there. So I've talked to people who've experienced domestic violence. I'm also would desire to speak with people who have family members who have died due to domestic violence. So I like to speak to people on the podcast for that. I've also kind of reached out in other areas because honestly, Dawn, I haven't had a lot of people reach out to me that have been through that journey of domestic violence that's ready to talk about it. So I've kind of branched out. I have an episode where I've spoken with 2 law enforcement officers. I have I've also spoken with you with Dawn of a New Day as one of my episodes. I actually spoke with a panel of young ladies who are college students, and we talked about domestic violence on a college campus, on college campuses. So my podcast has ventured out, but it's still all about domestic violence, all about domestic violence. So if you want to listen, anyone wants to listen to my podcast, just go. It's on Spotify, Anchor, Apple. It's on all of those platforms. So it is called Place to Prosper, and just look it up and have a listen and leave a message on there if you want to comment about anything. But more so, if you want to participate as a guest, please let me know. And you can find me on Facebook also under Kathy Robinson Super. So that's it. Thank you, Dawn, because I forgot about the podcast. Forgot about that.
Well, good. Okay.
But
Well,
thank you.
that's great, Kathy.
Mhm.
All right, Marilyn, what message would you like to provide women in the community about breast cancer? Also, do you have any additional information that you would like to put out about your book? Any shameless plugs you want to do?
Thanks, Don, and thanks again, Kathy. The first thing I want to say, cancer most of the time brings us to our knees because it gives us a better prayer life. And I want the women to know after they prayed and after cancer brought them to their knees, let it bring you to your feet. Advocate, because you'll be surprised the number of ladies who's been diagnosed with cancer that just need someone to talk to. They need to see the end. They need to see that there are survivors. Cancer is not a word no one wants to hear. And I want the families to understand that every woman that's diagnosed with cancer, they don't necessarily wants to talk about it. Let's find other subjects to talk about it. Because I'm one of those ladies. I don't really talk about cancer, but I do get a lot of people who call me and say, "Hey, I have a friend who's been diagnosed. Can you talk to her?" Yeah, me and her have a whole lot in common. And that's to let her that see it doesn't matter how many times you can survive, 1, 2, 3, 4 times. These just path that's in your way. These are just testimony that you need to give back. Once you diagnose, you feel better, get up, do something, advocate for the disease, become a walking testimony. But I do like to put a plug in about my book, Women Warriors Fighting the Battle Off the Field. And this book about women that's been in the military who may have went to war, who may have fought battles and was diagnosed with cancer. There's one story in there by Miss Bailey. She just retired from the Air Force. She was scared she was scared to life, and that's her story because she thought she had cancer, but by the time everything happened, it wasn't cancer. So, again, get up, move, do something, advocate for the disease because it touches everyone's. And sometimes, we don't do anything until it hit home for us. So, again, Don, I appreciate you allowing me to come on. And I know I never talked to you about my third bout with cancer. And again, that's because really it did bring.
Mm-mm. Hang on. Are you there? Marilyn, can you hear me? Yeah. Okay.
Now I can.
Okay.
And the last thing I want to say is about I have a girls mentor group for girls in 4th through 12th grade, and it's called Girl Warriors Fighting a Battle. It's called Kathy. I just want to put a little plug in your ear. Maybe teen domestic violence, it can be a topic soon, because as I talk to the girls in our organization, teenage girls go through the same thing of domestic violence.
Yeah. Wow. It's true. And I think I was kind of
Absolutely.
just sharing that a little bit. On today, these two topics are not ones that I have a lot of experience with, at all. But I was, she had shared with Kathy that I did experience a little domestic violence as a teenager. And so that was my first relationship, actually. And so there are quite a few young girls who do experience that, just because at this time, you're so young, you don't know how to work through those feelings and all those other things. And so it's almost like a child who has a tantrum. And so I did experience that. So I think that would be a really good idea. So, but ladies, you all, I'm indebted to you for being a part of the conversation, and we'll make sure that we get this information out. For those of you who have watched, please share with somebody so that we can get this to other people, just the stories that we have here, because a lot of times that's what brings strength, hearing other people's stories and what they survived through. All right. So, all right, everybody, this has been another conversation. I hope that everyone has found this dialogue helpful as well as somewhat therapeutic. If you join us late, don't worry. The replay will be available both here on Facebook and on YouTube at Dawn of a New Day 365. Please share it with those you feel will find this information helpful. As always, I want to thank my guests this morning, Ms. Marilyn Norris and Ms. Kathy Stuber. I want to personally thank both of you for taking the time to add to the conversation today. And thanks to those who took time to watch and listen to what they had to say. So take care and God bless. Have a great day. Happy Halloween. And don't forget to set your clocks back tonight. You get an extra hour of sleep, all right? Okay. Well, goodbye to everyone, and thank you for watching.